Welcome in, everyone, to the George Mason Men's Basketball Coaches Show. I'm Bill Rowland, alongside the head coach of the George Mason Patriots, Tony Skinn. Got a great show for you here tonight. Sonia Smith from the women's team is going to be joining us in the second segment. And, of course, we'll get to all the things going on with the men's basketball team and Tony Skinn. So we might as well jump right into it, Coach. It's been a while since we've had an opportunity to sit down and talk to you. A-10 play is underway. Your team's out to a 3-3 start, coming off a nice win against St. Bonaventure in your last outing, 69-60. Want to start there, and one of the things that you said after that game, that you said the freshman Baraka Koje was probably the best player on the floor. And if somebody looked at the box score, they might think that you're crazy. He only scored, I think, 2, 3, 4 points, didn't do a lot as far as the scoring column, but you said just the way he controlled the game, you thought he was the best player on the floor that night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was a stretch in that game. I think we were down 5 with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and I knew that the game was going to go in, one direction or the other. He comes up with the steal, and I believe either an and one or a free throw, and it just kind of changed the dynamic of the game and just gave us a little bit of life when I just thought that St. Bonaventure kind of smelled the victory. And anytime that you can have your freshmen in those moments grow up so fast against a really, really old team like St. Bonaventure, it's always a good sign. And I'm just happy we got the win. And for Baraka, just gave him just another confidence booster. I believe he played 29 minutes. And again, he only took one shot, but he led us to that win.
Talk about his growth from day one being with this program, and now again that you entrust him playing 29 minutes against one of the better teams in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the recruiting pitch. When we saw him in the summer, when I saw him towards the end of his high school year in Florida at DME, I thought that he was a high major player, and so I didn't really understand his recruitment. Nevertheless, we landed him. We didn't get him in the summer, so I was a little bit worried about that because there's so much that you have to pick up as a freshman. But he's a smart kid, high IQ, especially at his position. He picked that stuff up right away, and once he got rolling, again, he was going to play for us. I didn't know exactly how much, but it's no surprise that he's getting a chance to now show what he can do in 20-plus minutes.
You've talked about how sometimes you have him, and he's kind of like a Ferrari out there, and sometimes a Ferrari maybe without any brakes at times. Have you had to talk to him, or has he gotten better about knowing when to go full throttle and kind of when to dial things back, or is that still a work in progress?
If you watch me on the sidelines, I'm always talking to him. I'm always having to just kind of reel him back because I give him the green light to use his speed to our advantage. But it's just been pleasant just to have a guy like Ronald Polite that's obviously a little older and has a different type of engine. But he's learning game to game. He's had some ups and downs, but what a better way to learn in a conference win like the one the other night.
Yeah, another freshman, Austin Ball, scored all 8 points in the first half of that game. Couple of threes, nice backdoor cut. I think that one, to me, some people may overlook that because a lot of times freshmen, if they're coming in as a shooter, they're just going to stand in that corner. He read the play, went backdoor, hit a nice little floater. Has he started to make the progress that you expected from him now in his freshman year?
Yeah, Austin Ball he has some days where he's one of the better players in practice. Again, once you get into your rotational guys, especially in conference play, as much as you want to put a guy like him in the game, it just gets tough in conference especially. But, with us kind of switching it up and going small ball, I knew that it would allow me to just get, 1 or 2 guys some additional minutes, and it was Austin Ball. And, he came through. He gave us life in that first half, and I'm happy with him.
You guys went through a little bit of a stretch, dropped a couple of games in a row. What did you learn about this team or yourself as a coach? It was the first time all year you guys had lost back-to-back games. What did you take away from that process of kind of getting through some struggles, whether it was shooting against VCU the one night or over at GW? Just sometimes you guys didn't seem all the way connected defensively. What did you figure out about yourself in coaching and your team?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is, when you have the type of success that we had in non-conference, I've been through it as a player, been through it as a coach. The ups and downs are coming. Obviously, after having such a hot start, I knew it was coming. For me, it was more so just having a focus when it did come to allow these guys to understand that, the better days are coming.
Right.
And again, having 3 straight losses in a row, our focus was so tight that week I knew we were going to have a chance to beat whoever we played. And you know how it is. You lose 3 games and you come back home, you know, it could be catastrophic and could go in either direction. But our focus was there in the 2-day prep that we had against St. Bonaventure. And, you know, it obviously helps to have an assistant coach who was there for 13 years giving us insight. But we were locked in, and I thought we got out to a really, really good start. And St. Bonnie's played well, but, you know, we figured it out.
You guys are in a stretch now where you've only played 1 game in like the last 14 days or so. So I think it's going to end up being 2 games in something like 17, 18 days. How do you stay focused at this time of the year? Because you're usually in the conference grind of at least playing a couple games a week, sometimes 3 games in a week, and now you guys just have the 1 game, you know, over a span of 10 days or whatever it is. How do you keep these guys focused and gelled together?
You know, to be honest with you, the irony of you asking me that is we had a horrible practice yesterday. And I kind of knew it was coming, and so I prepared for it. It's hard to stay engaged, especially when you're in the teeth of conference play. You know, these guys get tired of, you know, going at each other every single day. They just want real competition. I tried to mix it up yesterday with, you know, the green and gold, just putting different guys at different spots and guys that don't typically play with each other. And I thought that would keep them engaged, but, you know, to no avail. And so we used yesterday's practice more of a conditioning day, and I was okay with it. And, you know, we'll have, you know, tomorrow and obviously Friday to prep for a really good, you know, what I think is a team that's just getting better day after day with Rhode Island.
Yeah, we'll talk about Rhode Island coming up a little bit later on the show. But going back to these practices, when you're trying to get them engaged, you're trying to get the energy up, is that something where you walk into practice, you can just feel it for them, or is it usually like 10, 15 minutes in, you're looking at your assistants like, yeah, this is going to be a rough one? You know what?
I've gotten better with the way I process the way guys practice in the first 5 minutes. Because sometimes it's not great, but you end up having like a really good practice. And sometimes the first 5 minutes is like really good, and then you end up having a bad practice. I think the most consistent thing is just making sure the bulk of practice is just being done at a high level. And for the most part, these guys have locked into it. And again, it helps when you have, you know, some older guys, and it helps when you have some competitive guys who, you know, they take this very seriously. Like Keyshawn Hall, he comes to practice almost to a fault. You know, he wants to win every single segment. You know, he wants to win every single thing we do in practice. And so for me, I've tried to get away from, you know, putting so much into those first 5-10 minutes and just really looking at the bulk of practice.
I'm sure they enjoy the conditioning practice, no matter the reason why, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, no, you know what? I was actually surprised because we do 22s,
right,
which is a down and back in 22 seconds. There's 3 groups, and they're just going right after each other. You know, back in the day, we had to do for preseason, we had to do 22 of those. You would do 11 of those and then take a little break and do another 11. They've never seen that. And so we haven't done that in a while. And so I was actually surprised because we got about 6 or 7 of those done yesterday. And so I was happy with that.
All right. Well, we'll find out how happy you are with the homecoming coming up this weekend. We'll talk to Tony Skinn a little bit more in the show. Coming up next, Sonia Smith from the women's basketball team. They're off to a fantastic start as well. That's coming up next here on the George Mason Men's Basketball Coaches Show. Welcome back to the George Mason Men's Basketball Coaches Show. I'm Bill Rowland. We'll continue our conversation with head coach Tony Skinn coming up in the next segment. Right now, though, it's my pleasure to be joined by one of the stalwarts of the women's team, Sonia Smith, joining me here. And you're coming off not only a nice run here early on, but you guys played earlier today, got back to campus, came out here, so we appreciate you stopping by. Before we get into a lot of different things, let's talk about that game today. 57-41. You guys go over to GW, get a victory over at the Smith Center. 5 straight wins now, 6-1 in the A-10, 15-3 overall. I mean, these are fantastic numbers. Is this kind of what you guys thought maybe you had as a team at the beginning of the year?
I would say yes from the summer. Well, for me personally, I have always believed in this team from the summer. With the new girls coming in and even the returners, I feel like I've always seen something special in all of us. So even playing pickup, I'm just like, okay, I think we're going to be really good this year. But I just feel like a lot of people may not have believed that with George Mason's history and just us trying to build this program. But I've noticed it from the summer. I thought it was special. And so we've just been proving that.
A lot of people weren't necessarily high on you guys. You're picked 8th in the preseason poll, so a lot of other coaches or media people that voted on it weren't sure. Was that ever a conversation as far as they picked us 8th, we're not 8th, or do you guys just don't even pay attention to that kind of stuff?
For sure it was with Coach Blair, with me and her being at the A10 conference with the interviews and stuff. But within the team, not really. It was noted by us, but it's not something we really harp on. We're just trying to prove we're a great team no matter what anybody else thinks. So we don't really harp on the fact that we were picked preseason 8th. I do a little bit, but
You gotta have that chip, right?
yeah,
at some
for sure.
point.
But as a team, no, we don't really even talk about that a lot.
One of the things I love watching you guys is I was over at GW today. I'm looking at the A10 standings and all the stats and everything. And you look at the individual rankings for stats. There's somebody here and there from George Mason, but it's not dominated. But then you flip over to the team stats, and you guys are like at the top of almost every single stat, every single category. You're either 1, 2, or 3. I think it says a lot that you're not just 1 or 2 players, and if you shut those people down like yourself, that the rest of the team can't do it. It's a team effort, night in and night out.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny that you say that. I was literally just talking to our freshman Kennedy about that run practice, and I'm like, she was saying how like it's tough coming into conference because like every team like scouts you really well, and I'm like, that's true, but I feel like this year was so hard to stop because yeah, they could come scout me, but then there's you, there's Zaza, there's Taylor, there's Paula. Like at any given night, you don't know who's gonna show up, even if you try to shut me down or shut Zaza down or somebody else on our team. Like we still have a lot of depth on our team to cover whatever you try to stop me for. Somebody else will probably do too.
And that's got to be a nice thing where you guys just look at it and say, hey, if it's not my night, maybe it's somebody else's night. Let's find the hot hand and just keep winning. And that's what you guys have done.
Yeah, for sure. Like in the past, I've probably been relied on a lot to score, like relied on to do a lot of things. And then if I don't, it's really detrimental. But if I don't show up or if my shooting percentage is bad, kind of like today, I have a lot of teammates to rely on. It doesn't have to depend on me. If I shoot bad, we lose. Like if I shoot bad, I know I can rely on some of my teammates to shoot better, to be there for my rebounds, anything. So I'm really grateful for my teammates, for sure.
You guys had a pretty cool thing earlier this week. You got to sit down. Sue Bird was on campus. Obviously, U.S. national team, WNBA player, number of years, was on campus for a media event, and you guys got to meet and talk with her. Did you take any little hints or nuggets away from that meeting with her?
No, for sure, for sure. We asked her a lot of great questions at the end. It was really great for me being somebody who grew up playing basketball my whole life, and me going my whole life being a point guard, just watching her. She's an amazing player, so I was really inspired seeing her in the locker room, and I was grateful that she came and talked to us, and we really took a lot of nuggets. One gem she gave us is that a first is never going to happen again. So, like, we're ring chasing. We're on the road to be champions, A10 champions. So she just told us to, like, embrace every moment that we have because we can be a first this year. So let's make it happen.
So far this year, you guys are undefeated at home. You've got a big game coming up this weekend against Virginia Commonwealth on Sunday. It's homecoming weekend. How much do you guys, when you get going and you're getting turnovers and steals and scoring and the crowd's going crazy and the band starts playing, how much does that get you guys amped up to play there at Eagle Bank Arena?
It gets us amped up a lot. Being women's basketball, we do get less fans as men's basketball, but it's just, so we usually rely on each other, but like in those critical moments in the game when we do have a nice crowd and we hear the crowd, like it helps a lot. It gets us riled up. It gets us inspired to just not let each other down, but also the fans, everybody watching, so we just dig deeper that much. Whenever
you guys keep winning, you're going to have a lot more fans coming out there, no doubt. All right, I had to ask you about this. You and I were talking before this. 4 older brothers. All of them played sports. You kind of didn't have a choice. How was that growing up with the 4 older brothers? I'm sure you got to go rebound, you got to go chase this, you got to do that, but ultimately, here you are.
Yes. It was rough. It was rough to say the least with my 4 brothers and my dad, 5 men in the house. My mom just wants me to be her little girl, and a lot of times I couldn't, and I wanted to be that little girl as well, but they always pulled me into the gym to get me better, and back then it was just so annoying, so aggravating. But now looking back, I'm just super grateful for each and every one of them, honestly. They were really hard on me back then, and it's paying off now, so now they're not that hard on me anymore, so it was all for a reason for sure.
You the best athlete in the family?
I don't think that's
tough because some of your family's out here, so.
That sounded like a statement, not a question.
Okay, yeah, sure. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Best athlete in the family, right there. Sonia, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it. Good luck this weekend against Virginia Commonwealth for homecoming. Again, 6-1 the A10, 15-3 overall, 5 straight wins. Best start in school history. And as you said, ring chasing. So let's go ahead and get that done. Get the
sure.
first trip to the NCAAs. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. Sonia Smith, the women's basketball team. Again, they're in action on Sunday against Virginia Commonwealth. Come on out and see them. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the homecoming game for the men as they take on Rhode Island on Saturday at Eagle Bank Arena. Stick around. I'm Bill Rowland. This is the George Mason Men's Basketball Coaches Show right here at Capitol Ale House in Fairfax. Awesome. Welcome back to the George Mason Men's Basketball Coaches Show. I'm Bill Rowland, along with the head coach of the Patriots, Tony Skinn, and we just caught up with Sonia Smith, the women's basketball team coach. And it's got to be fun when both programs, the men and women, are having such great seasons, right? I mean, it's always fun to get out there and watch them. They've been dominating people at home this year, so it's got to be a nice camaraderie there back in the offices.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's it's always good to be able to just see their success. And have some sort of a brand. They're playing better than us, actually, in my opinion. But to just have some sort of competitive spirit inside the same building, it's always good to just be able to see that, and always, the support that they're giving us, the support that our guys are giving them. I remember we were watching. I think it was when we were. I can't remember what game it was, but they were playing Maryland, and the game got down to the wire, and our guys were just huddled up in the hotel, and they were screaming out loud, trying to just support the ladies as much as possible. But I'm happy for them, and it's a new day and age at George Mason, and it's always good to see women's basketball and men's basketball doing well.
Sonia talked about ring chasing. You know a little bit something about that, having won the CA titles and gone to the NCAAs and things like that. What is that like when you get that team and you kind of know, hey, we're on to something here?
Yeah, it's a special feeling, and it's something that, I talked about it yesterday in one of the interviews that I did. Anytime you can have a group of people that are committed, those countless hours in the summer that you spend together, especially for us, I know part of our success back then, I'm not that old, but coaches weren't allowed to be in the gym with us.
Right.
And we had to come in the gym and do our summer workouts on our own. It wasn't mandated. And so, the commitment level that it takes to be able to just commit and come in the gym for, 4 or 5 weeks in the summer, to see that success and to see the early success that we had on that 2006 team, it's a feeling that doesn't go away. It's a feeling that I've always had as a coach. And I think that, for us as a program, it's just something that, we're working towards, and it's just good to see that the women's are doing the same thing, and, we're right there.
You talk about back in your day, and you guys have a homecoming game coming up Saturday against Rhode Island, 4 o'clock at Eagle Bank Arena. Hopefully we'll see everybody come out. But back in your day, you guys played in some pretty rowdy games back when you were here from 2004 to 2006. Now, that predates by 1 year the Green Machine, but it still got pretty loud. Do you remember what it was like when Eagle Bank Arena would get rocking back when you were playing?
I do. I really do. It was one of the most exciting times at George Mason, just because you knew that it was going to be an elevated game, just depending on who we play. I believe my senior year we played James Madison, which obviously is always, or at least back then in the CAA, was a rivalry game. But the juices are always flowing in that type of an atmosphere, and I'm looking forward to Saturday.
When you get this situation, like we talked about in a prior segment, where you haven't played that many games over this stretch, and now you add in homecoming, and the students are going to be out there, and alumni, and I'm sure people are hitting you up, old teammates that are coming back into town. The players probably have maybe family that are coming in. Do you try to talk to them about being able to kind of put the blinders on and say, hey, ultimately we still have a game to play on Saturday, or do you kind of hope that they're mature enough to handle that on their own?
Yeah, I think that's probably more of a thing for me as an alum. Because like you said, I've had so many people reach out. There's going to be people that are going to come to the games that I haven't seen in probably 10 plus years. Some of my former teammates are coming, and so I know how to handle that part. But our guys they've been pretty resilient with understanding what's at stake and what obviously what the goal is. And so I'm not worried about that at all for them. I think if anything, it motivates them to play as hard as they can possibly play in front of a really good crowd.
We talked to Sonia about when their team gets rolling, the women's team, and getting up and down, and you guys are kind of the same thing. You get a turnover, guys get a big dunk, hit a big three, and the crowd erupts and the band gets going. I mean, do you see that when the guys come to the bench, that they're kind of like looking up and like, wow, this place is getting a little crazy?
I know they see it because, I'll put myself out there. I'm jumping all over the place. I actually got to do a better job of keeping my poise. But it's just one of those things where, that place gets electric. Our guys feel it. They feed off of it. I've preached, Patriot pressure for the last 6 months or so, and that's what that's about. It's not necessarily how we're playing or the pressure we're applying. It's about the building and the pressure we can apply to our opponents. And so, again, I'm excited about what it's been and what it's growing into.
You talk about Patriot pressure. I think a lot of people thought that maybe that was going to be 94 feet getting in somebody's face the whole way. But you guys are one of the best at guarding the rim. If you look at Ken Palm numbers, I think you're in the top 20 right now, maybe even higher than that as far as 2-point field goal percentage defense. To me, that's more about it is just making it uncomfortable for the other team to run their offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's two parts to Patriot pressure. There's the press, and then there's the half court switching up defenses. And so far, so good. I got to knock on wood. We've been really, really good inside the two. We're actually top 10. I haven't looked at Ken Palm in a couple of days, so maybe we slipped at 15 or something like that. But I think for us, in order to get to where I want us to get to, we've got to continue to get better in guarding the three. And I thought we did that well against St. Bonaventure, and just trying to find a way to. There's a delicate balance of being able to be good at both. It's hard to be good at both, but we're trending in the right direction.
Well, we're hoping that we'll see more of that trend on Saturday as you guys host Rhode Island. We're going to invite everybody to come out there, alumni, fans, friends, everybody come out 4 o'clock on Saturday against Rhode Island out at Eagle Bank Arena. Coach Tony Skinn and his squad will be trying to get back above 500 in league play. You guys are, again, off to a great start to 14 wins already in the season. Not too much to complain about so far, right?
We're in a good spot. We still got 12 games to take care of, and obviously home is as important as everything else, and just one game at a time for sure. But our guys are in a good spot.
It's going to do it for the Coaches Show this evening. Again, thanks for Tony Skinn, Sonia Smith for joining us tonight. Thanks for everybody here at the Capitol Ale House as well. We will see you Saturday, 4 o'clock out at Eagle Bank Arena. The Patriots take on Rhode Island on homecoming.